Okay, so our guest today is Jaron Erickson, a dynamic individual passionate about changing lives through tech sales. Jaron's journey from uncertainty to empowerment is a testament to the transformative power of self-belief and education. After leaving his position at Divvy, Jaron embarked on a mission to help others break into the tech industry, resulting in the creation of Sales Dojo, where they help people break into a career in tech sales. Join us today as we dive into Jaron's story, philosophy, and the impact of his work. Jaron, it's great to have you on the podcast today.
Heck yeah, well, thanks a ton, Dan. I love what you guys are doing, and I feel privileged to be invited on the show with you. This is sweet.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Well, tell me about your entrepreneurial background. You have entrepreneur parents, and growing up in a home like that is different than what I experienced for sure. So how has that impacted you and your journey, starting?
Yeah, it's a really, really good question. For context, yeah, my parents ran their own business for, I don't know, almost 14 years, I believe it was, while I was growing up. And it wasn't until I was almost 20 where they ended up, my dad sold the company and then started working in the tech industry again. So I've just seen my parents run their own business my whole life.
Yeah.
But when I look back on it, I was so young, I didn't know any different. So that's just how things were. And looking back, as I've learned more about the numbers behind what they'd accomplished, I was like, dang, Mom, Dad, you guys are legit.
Yeah, you guys are awesome.
It was pretty cool. But for me, I guess it was less about seeing my parents be entrepreneurs that motivated me to be an entrepreneur. It's more, I'm just an idea guy. Yeah. And I think my parents let my ideas just come to life and kind of gave me permission to dream, think big, and to think differently. I think has been the biggest component for me.
That's awesome.
Because my path with school has been a little bit different. I've been in school, I've been out of school, I've been back in school, I've been back out. I have had a crazy experience with school.
Yeah.
But my parents have always wanted me to focus on learning. And there's so many different ways to learn. And so even if I wasn't in a traditional 4-year degree, they've always been so supportive of what I've been learning through different means. And I think that's where the entrepreneurial spirit comes in.
Totally.
Where it's less about hey, what business can we start? It's more about how can we learn and how can we leverage so many resources to help you or myself reach where I want to go.
Yeah,
so
totally. And
that's been huge.
Solve problems. The only way you're going to solve problems is by talking, listening, reading, observing, all those things,
100%.
That's awesome. What were there any pivotal moments or experiences with your parents that you felt put you on an entrepreneur path? Did you always want to be an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I think the biggest pivotal moment for me, and I'll look back at this moment my whole life, but I remember sitting in the car and I was struggling. I was going through a hard time. I was in college.
You're in college, okay.
So I was running track at UVU. I was studying business management.
Yeah.
And I just had this moment where I had no idea what I wanted to do career-wise.
Yeah.
And it was really difficult for me to be in school pursuing this career path or degree that I had no idea if I even wanted or where it was taking me. And I remember being on the phone with my dad, and he's like, "Hey, Jer, you can take a break from school." I was like, "What?" That did not even register.
Yeah, he just gave you the permission. Yeah.
Yeah, he gave me the permission. He's like, "Hey, you can take a break from school and go get a job." He's like, "You can actually go work for one of these tech companies in Utah, gain some experience, and then come back to school and figure out what you want to study." And so once my dad gave me, like you said, that word permission and the support to do something different, it totally changed everything. We'll probably get into it, but that's led to me working at Divvy. That's led to me starting Dojo. But the key component behind it for me is just my dad letting me think differently and giving me permission and support to figure out what works best for myself. And that has been such a pivotal moment that has totally changed my life.
Oh, that's amazing, man. And I think a privilege for sure. It's we're, I think, super lucky. I had also amazing parents too that allowed me the space to dream, to work hard, to do all those things, but also pushed me, and I'm sure it's the same for you. But I think it's a total privilege to have that and to also like have that journey, you know? So talk to me a little bit about, so your dad exited and went back into tech, and you know, left school, went into tech. How was like that how was the transition going from school into like working full time in tech?
It was really different. I mean, I'd never had a full-time job before.
Yeah.
And so
And Divvy took a chance on you?
Yeah, pretty much. I go into the interview process. I'm 21 at the time.
Yeah.
I have no sales background. I have no degree. I have no tech experience, let alone like work experience.
Yeah.
or
Yeah,
anything.
no kidding.
And I just go through the interview process and like they hired me.
Yeah.
And I remember showing up to work for the first day at Divvy going, dude, what am I doing here? I'm 21. I'm like just smiling. I'm like, all right, I'm going to work as hard as I can. And I just started to learn as I went. But I think
what's
I was
fintech? You're like,
yeah,
walk in,
like,
fintech. What's fintech?
Dude, I think I took an accounting class at UVU.
Yeah.
So I know somewhat about accounting, I guess. But I just remember being the youngest one there and just trying to learn as much as I could from everybody around me. Like all my account executives, even the other SDRs when I started. I just tried to soak in as much as I could.
And you started as an SDR, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Started as an SDR and I was surrounded by so many leaders and mentors at this company that was like a whole degree in itself.
Yeah.
Of watching, I mean, leaders like Alex Bean, Blake Murray, Sterling Snow build a company.
Yeah.
And me just being on the inside of them making decisions a little bit.
LinkedIn legends
Unreal.
for sure, those guys.
Yeah, pretty much. I still admire them from a distance. So it was cool to be inside of that experience, even being so young at the time.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. What do you feel like are some lessons that you learned from those guys, like pivotal moments, maybe in that either helped you in your career or helped you with sales or maybe changed your mindset a little bit?
Yeah, I kind of have like two just come to mind. One was with Alex Bean. Again, I was an SDR. I was like bottom of the entry
bottom
level
of the barrel of sales. Yeah.
But I was in, and so I ended up messaging him. Me and two of my friends at Divvy, we messaged Alex Bean on Slack, and we're like, "Hey, Alex, can we take you to lunch? Like, we'll pay." And he's like, "Deal, let's do it." And so 2 weeks later, because he was so busy, we went to lunch. It was Alex Bean, the co-founder of Divvy, and three of us who are all SDRs. And that was just such a cool moment for me that the co-founder or just this
willing to take the time.
Big busy man, it took the time to talk with us.
For sure.
And to teach us and help us believe in ourselves. And that was something that I just loved. I was like, hey, these high-end leaders, they do care. They want to see you be successful, and they want to teach and share lessons that they've learned if you let them.
Totally.
So that was something cool that I learned, is I could learn from like big leaders like that.
Well, and also like you took the risk of like messaging them and saying, hey, we'll pay for lunch, but also like for them to say yes and for them to go with you and also, you know, take that time. It's huge because I think we're lucky in Utah because I think we have amazing leadership here, especially at some tech companies, but you don't always see it even still. Mm-hmm. And like for him to do that is pretty amazing, especially kind of probably where Divvy was at the time. Like you guys were, it was like a rocket ship basically.
Yeah, when you put it in context, I think we like hit hypergrowth. We'd raised our Series D, and then it was like, Alex Bean's still taking average people to lunch.
Taking some SDRs to lunch.
I'm like, this is cool.
That's awesome.
So
do you remember the advice? Do you remember any specific advice he gave you at the time?
For me, even as like with a lot of mentors, it's come less to like what they've said specifically, and it's come more of them just holistically believing in me or the other people that they've mentored. I think sometimes that belief component plays a way bigger factor than any type of specific strategic advice.
Yeah, totally.
That they can give. I just remember Alex, like the thought of Alex Bean used to be in college. He used to be a student athlete. I was a student athlete.
Yeah.
Now he started a company. And he's had this whole journey and struggles of like getting to where he's at.
Totally.
I think it was just cool to see someone that has like made it.
Yeah.
Also have low points or hard times or questions.
Because they've had them. They've
sure.
had them. They just sometimes people don't talk about them. You know, for the most part.
We don't talk about it, but it allowed me to just relate more and go, this guy's not just a superhuman. Like, he's really
Yeah.
smart, works his tail off. But I think I can get there. I think I could do something like that. And
Yeah.
so I've just been around people that have believed in my abilities, and I'm like, maybe I could do that someday,
Yeah.
Who knows?
No, totally. And I think you have. Talk to me about your journey at Divvy. So starting as an SDR, what was your path for, I think you were there a couple years, weren't you? Or two years?
It was pretty quick stint. I was there just under 18 months.
Okay, 18 months. Okay.
So I came in right before COVID, and then COVID hit. Half our team gets let go.
Yep.
Still there, worked through COVID, and then stayed with them until their acquisition with Bill.
With Bill. Okay.
So, yeah, that ride with Divvy was totally life-changing.
Yeah.
Let alone, like, the skills that I gained as being an SDR. Like,
Yeah.
one of the reasons I'm so passionate about tech sales is because you learn skills that are going to benefit you for the rest of your life.
100%.
Like, do I believe every single person needs to get into tech sales and go be an AE and move up and be a VP sales? No.
Yeah.
But do I believe everyone could benefit from working in tech sales? 100%. Because you're going to learn
Absolutely.
skills, you're going to meet people and connections, and you're just going to learn how to run a company.
Yeah.
So maybe if you
On
go
top of
start your
just
own.
communication, like the amount of communication that SDRs do is like
Yeah.
abnormally high. It's very, very akin to other, are not akin to other roles. Really, it's crazy the amount of dials you guys have to make, the amount of kind of people you have to talk to, like all of those things. So talk to me about maybe what makes a good SDR, and we can kind of lead into Sales Dojo a little bit.
Yeah, it was cool. My manager at Divvy kind of like helped me define what that was, and even the whole leadership team, to be honest. Because, like I said, when I came in, I didn't have any previous sales experience.
Yep. Yeah, you were learning from the ground up.
I didn't have any technical background. I didn't even have a college degree, and they hired me. And what was cool is they hired me because they saw I had a desire to learn. I was going to push myself, and I was going to work harder than everybody else around me.
Yeah.
And you can learn the skills. Like,
Totally.
That's something, obviously, we want to solve with Dojo is helping people learn the skills before they start. But you can learn the skills, but it's harder to teach the character. So I
Yep.
think, to be honest, if you can hire people that have the right character and the desire to learn, the humility to overcome mistakes, those are the people you want on your team. And I
Yeah.
feel like I embodied that, and they took a chance on me, and things panned out for me and hopefully for them.
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes a better sales rep or like just individual is having high character rather than any type of so qualified credentials. It's more about who you are than what you've done, I'd say.
Yeah. No, and I think that totally rings true, especially like I'm just thinking about like who we have that work at Scroll, like our team, and like really like everybody. It's always been a gut hire for Shane and I, which is kind of funny. One, to admit that, but it's always been a gut hire where it just feels right, and it feels right because their character's good. Even though they may not be the most technical person ever, or they may not, know exactly what they're doing, they are trying very hard. They know how to learn. They're curious. Like all those things, the character is so huge in any role, and especially in tech, where I feel like it's a lot of fluff for the most part.
Yeah, I think it's really easy to get caught up on outside image and different things. Social media is a great tool, but yeah, if you definitely start comparing yourself and you lose track of where you are and where your feet are, then it can be, I don't know, not
It's
the
easy.
most positive place in the world.
No kidding. So at Divvy and transitioning to Sales Dojo, what was that transition like, and what kind of clicked for you to say, hey, I think I can help others learn how to do this, how to get into tech?
That's a good question. I'll kind of answer that in two parts. Like the first part is understanding entrepreneurship. I think a lot of people think of entrepreneurship as I have a magical idea and I commit to it and like I get lucky and everything works out. And I think some people also think like I'm going to sit down and come up with that magic idea. But that's really not how things work, I think, in most cases.
Super rare.
Because for me, it wasn't like I woke up and was like, I'm going to start a company that teaches people how to be SDRs and then help them get hired.
Yeah.
That just didn't come. It originally started as my manager at Divvy telling me about his entrepreneurial ventures.
Yeah.
And then us having one-on-ones about like how maybe I could do something like that long term and run like an outsourced SDR team. And so as I started moving through my time at Divvy, like this was over a year-long process where I just started to have thoughts and new ideas come into my head, to the point where my manager, I don't get to tell this part of the story as often, but my manager had a one-on-one with me, and he said, Jaron, you don't belong here. I was like, dude, what do you mean? Like, I'm on your team, dude.
You just blindsided me.
What are you talking about? Like, what do you mean? And he's like, dude, you don't belong here. Like, you need to go do something bigger than this. You either need to go move up in the company, or you need to go back to school and do something different or start your own thing. And that was just a wake-up call for me. Again, back to this mentorship about my manager. His name's Lee. He saw something in me that I didn't see in myself.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuck in my head. I was like, I don't belong here. But I knew that I could do something bigger than just working at Divvy. And so once their acquisition came, my stock had vested, or a piece of my stock had vested, and I was like, I'm going to take the chance, and I left.
Yeah.
I left Divvy, and I went back to school. Now, I didn't leave Divvy going, I'm starting my own company, I'm going to change the world. I said, I'm leaving Divvy, and I'm going back to school because I love teaching.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to be a professor.
Interesting.
And I start going to school, and I went from making like over 100K as like potentially be on that partnerships team to making zero.
Yeah.
And sitting in my gender of psychology class. I was dying. I couldn't handle it. I was like, what is going on? And
academia is no joke.
It was tough, man.
Going and teaching is no joke.
It was tough. And so I was like just grinding it out with school, and I was like, all of a sudden I'm making no money. And I just had this thought. I was like, okay, well, I need to get a part-time job. I'm like, what am I good at? Well, I'm good at sales. Okay, maybe I'll be a part-time SDR at another company. So I start interviewing with these companies to be a part-time SDR. And not to be prideful, but I was like, I know more about being an SDR than your whole company does.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't get that job.
Yeah, for sure.
But somebody else would love that job and could benefit a ton from it.
You saw like a gap. You saw a gap in the market at the time.
And so I was like, well, nobody even knows these positions exist because it's not being talked about at school. There's no course or training that's done for these roles. Like, I didn't even know about it, and my dad worked in the tech industry.
Yeah.
So I had this idea. I was like, okay, well, what if I start a course and I will teach people how to be SDRs, and I will help them get hired into these SDR positions. And so I was like, all right, let's try it. I'm just at school. I'm like
I've got nothing to lose.
Nothing to lose here.
Yeah, yeah.
And so our first cohort was 3 people. It was my sister, a friend of mine, and a kid that we convinced to take the program. And I came up with this curriculum and started talking to all these companies, and like we run through the course. It wasn't perfect, but all 3 of them got hired into tech companies.
Yeah, that's amazing. First 3 case studies.
And I was like, dude, this works. And so I started.
I'm 3 for 3.
I'm 3 for 3. I'm like, we're 100%. So I started talking to companies. I was like, hey, what if there was like a course that taught people how to be SDRs so they were trained before you started with your company? And companies like, oh, that'd be great. Like, we'd be very interested in interviewing these people. I was like, okay. So started to try to get more students. And we just ran more and more cohorts to the point where we're on our 24th cohort right now.
Wow.
And we just haven't stopped. And it's evolved and changed, but that whole 4-year growth period of like idea to where we are now, it's evolved, it's changed, but it never came all at once. And it took someone believing in me, and then just a lot of trial and error along the way to like actually make it happen.
Yeah, but that's amazing. And it's cool that like I think your ability to see those things and then have that idea and then obviously go execute it, because like everybody's got ideas. and ideas are a dime a dozen, especially these days, especially now with AI and all the things. But like the ability to like say, I'm gonna go execute, and I'm gonna just give it a shot. Like that is the difference maker between honestly those who succeed long term and those who just don't or just stay where they're at.
Yeah, I'd totally agree with you. And I feel like, to be honest, I got lucky in the sense that I could take that type of risk.
Yeah.
Where I didn't have a lot to lose. I was just at school and I wasn't working at Divvy anymore. And so I was like, let's just try it. But I think a lot of people view entrepreneurship as being very risky. Like, I didn't go all in on Dojo after the first cohort. It wasn't like, oh, I'm going to quit school and just do this. No, I was in school for a while doing Dojo on the side. And then it got to a point where I felt it was more risky doing two separate things at a mediocre level than to just go all in. And so I was like, let's try it. I can always come back to school. This will always be here, but Dojo and this opportunity won't. And so I just went for it, but it didn't feel as risky because I was making money. Yeah. And it had sustained to a point where I was like, I think this can keep working.
It's a calculated risk for sure. And like, I think, a lot of people are like, swing for the fences, take big risks for sure. But like, I think for the most part, entrepreneurs are pretty risk averse people. They just take very calculated risks, So was there any other risks that you felt like you've, taken that have paid off for you guys in the last couple of years outside of Sales Dojo?
That's a great question.
Or even in Sales Dojo.
Yeah. I'm trying to think of some specific risks, but I think for me, what I've seen is I like to view myself as someone who's willing to take a risk and like try new things. But I've also seen I'm the type of person that likes security. Like I like to, feel stable with what I'm doing, and not have to always be walking on the invisible bridge hoping that it'll still be there. And so I've seen, to be honest, our company grows when we are willing to take risks, and our company becomes stagnant when we stop. Yeah. And so I think instead of just like big risks, it's been little things like trying new marketing material or starting a podcast with our graduates or new outreach strategies to companies. Like those are smaller risks and changes that we'll take internally that continue to help our company grow, because it does take an investment into certain things where you're putting capital into it. And you don't know if it's going to pay off. You hope it does, but if you stop doing those things and taking those risks, then that's when things start to become more stagnant.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think there's a good analogy of the miner with the gold. I don't know if you've seen the little picture, and he's like been going super hard, looks like for forever, and the gold is like literally a foot or two away. And you see him, just turn around and just walk away because he's done. He's tired. I was like, I've been going for too long. I'm done. And it was right there. Like, just if you just kept going, you could have had it.
Yeah, that's a tough story to think about because I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah.
And early on, I was like, oh, what if there are other people that try to do what we're doing? And I was like afraid that other people would come in and try to overpower what Dojo's trying to build. And like, maybe they're smarter, they have more resources. We saw a few people try. Yeah. And they stopped. Yeah. And they probably had more resources and things at their in their grasp, but they just didn't keep going. And I think for me, Dojo's been imperfect. Like 100%. People ask like, how's business? I'm like, some days it's great. There's other times I'm like really, really stressed.
Yeah.
But we haven't stopped. And because we've kept going, it's allowed us to keep growing. And that's like a really powerful reflection for me, where I'm really proud of that. That totally. Even when it has been uncertain, or even when I've doubted myself, or, resources that I have, or my own abilities to keep doing this, we just keep trying and keep going. And I think that has been the biggest thing that set us apart from other people that have also tried to do what we're doing.
Yeah, no, 100%. Like, just don't give up.
Yeah.
And like, you're going to have maybe many failures, but like, if you don't get up, don't get up. If you don't give up, get up. If you don't more or less give up, like you will succeed eventually. Like, because everybody else is either going to stop, because it's human nature.
Yeah.
Like, we all feel it. And sometimes it's like during the same day, like you have such high highs, you also have such low lows, and that can be by the hour, by the day, especially as an entrepreneur and a business owner. But just keep going, just keep going, and something will pan out,
Hopefully, man. Yeah.
Totally. Well, tell me about a good like story or success story from one of your students, because you're in your 24th cohort, which is amazing. Like, and I know you've had a lot of students. What's been some of your personal favorite stories?
Dude, I'm super glad you asked, because that is the whole reason of why we started Dojo. Like, I think we've kind of been talking about how I did it and how I started it, but to be honest, the whole reason behind everything we've done is to change people's lives.
Totally.
I'm a huge believer that tech, and specifically tech sales, can change your life, because it changed mine.
Yep.
And if you can work for a company that's going to pay you well, like I think jobs in the tech industry pay like 30% higher than other industries. Yep. So you get paid well, you have really good growth opportunities to move up in your company, and you're going to be surrounded by leaders and mentors. Like, if you can get people into those settings or scenarios, you're going to change lives.
Sky's the limit. Yeah.
And it's not us changing the lives, it's them changing their own lives. And we just want to be a catalyst to make that happen.
Totally.
And so some of the stories have been so cool. Like, we've worked with people from so many different backgrounds. Like, people ask me, like, what's your ICP? What's your ideal customer that comes into the course? And maybe I can get better at like really nailing it down. Like, we do a lot of door-to-door people into tech, but we've also had people come from construction or come from retail, come being teachers, or like moms who have been divorced but need to get back into the workforce. Yeah. And it's been incredible. One of my favorites, we had a student come through who was working construction. He had like 2 kids at the time, taking care of his family, and he ends up breaking his back. He broke his back on the job working construction, gets put out for a while, and in his head he's going, I still have to work construction for the rest of my life in order to provide for my family.
For sure.
Ends up having a family friend refer him to our course. We get him into the course, and he gets hired as an SDR. And so all of a sudden he's working from home with his family. Yeah. All of a sudden he's now moving up to be an account executive. He's going to be making over 6 figures and taking care of his family in such a better way than he was doing before.
Yeah, way less harder on his body.
Way less harder on his body, way more growth opportunity, and way more money at the end of the day. So
that's amazing.
Stuff like that, but then also like we've had another student. She was a gym receptionist. So she was working at like Vasa.
Yeah, just like front desk.
Front desk, just talking to everyone, like the most social, fun girl.
For sure.
And her boyfriend was like, yo, I heard about this program. Like, I know you've been looking for a new job. You should think about doing it. Yeah. So we hop on a call, intro to the course, and she's like, I'm going to take a chance. She had never done sales before, but she's like, I think I could be good at it. Yeah. Like I'm good with people. Comes in, and all of a sudden, once she comes out of the program, she had like 3 different offers from different tech companies.
That's amazing.
And she went from making like, I don't know, like maybe like 40K to like 80 all of a sudden.
Wow.
And now she works at a company called Zenny, where their VP of sales is Megan Prince, so another woman. And she's just being mentored by
other amazing women.
Women that are kicking butt. And I'm like, that's what I'm talking about. That's what you don't get working at Vasa. Yeah. And those are the stories, the scenarios that we at Dojo want to create more and more of.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. That's fantastic. It's so fun. I see it like lights you up, and I love that because that's your why. Mm-hmm. Like that's 100% your why. And it also, those are the stories that like keep you going. Mm-hmm. That like, hey, not only is it good for marketing, but like it literally serves as those like the heart moments that like really keep you going, But that's awesome. So like tell me a little bit about women in tech, because that's, I think, like exploded even more in the last probably like 5-6 years. Talk to me about that, because I know you serve anyone and everyone who wants to get into tech, but talk to me specifically about women in tech.
Dude, I it's kind of weird to say, but I really am passionate about this topic.
Yeah.
Because I've seen my mom. My mom is like a kick butt
Yeah,
type of
she
woman.
seems like it.
She's like starts her own company.
Yeah.
She still likes working. She was always present with us growing up as kids, but she is very involved in the workforce and Silicon Slopes. And so my perspective is, women that want to work can absolutely come in and crush it. I've also had multiple women on my sales teams, like when I was at Divvy, where they were literally like my top competitors. I was how are they doing so well? And I'm like trying to talk to them, like, teach me what you're doing because you're kicking some butt right now.
Yeah.
And so I've just seen how well women can do in the industry.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people just don't even consider it.
Yeah.
Like we have companies reaching out who are like wanting to hire more women specifically to be on their teams.
For sure.
Because they see that they just like they have different skill sets a lot of times. They have this ability to connect and to understand.
Yeah.
But they're also just like, they know how to grind.
Yeah, totally.
And they can come in and really level up the whole team around them. And so I think it's starting to change. We'd like to keep making a bigger push. Like one of our goals is we want to run a full women cohort. Like we want to have a women instructor. We want to have at least 10 women in that cohort.
I'm sure you got to get Megan. You got to get Megan Prince to come and do it.
We would get her as a guest speaker for sure.
Yeah.
But like we would just bring in all these women sales leaders and run a full women cohort. That's something I really want to accomplish. We even have people who are providing scholarships for women to come through. It's been cool. And so again, we serve everyone, but I'm excited to see that push continue to make greater waves.
Yeah.
As the workforce becomes even more and more diverse, which is pretty cool.
No, totally. And I feel like women in general have that innate, I would consider, in my opinion, it's this kind of innate biological ability to be empathetic and to relate, unlike men can in sales, to be honest. And so I think like women that take it seriously can really succeed, and that's fantastic. And it's exciting to see like you guys moving even more in that direction, I think, long term. So that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm just really grateful for those sales leaders who are women who speak out about it and who are examples. Like, I don't want to embarrass Megan, but she is like a really cool mentor for me. And I always show her LinkedIn profile to like so many of the women we talk to because she started as an SDR.
Yep.
And then she went account executive, senior account executive, team lead, director of sales, VP of sales. Like she's walked the path. And it's really cool to have someone see that someone else has done it and that they could follow the same thing. Kind of like me with Alex Bean, again.
Yeah.
Not comparing ours to Divvy at all. That would be great. But I was like, I saw his path and I was like, maybe I could do something like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same thing. If you can see someone who's walked it and you can follow them, just have that belief ignited again, I think it does really, really powerful things for your own personal performance.
Yeah, no, 100%. And having and finding mentors is huge. Like, what advice do you have for, kids in college? I say kids in college, but whoever is in college. Even if you're stuck you feel like it's a dead end job. Like, what advice would you give somebody to like start looking for a mentor or start getting out of where they're at?
Dude, it's such a good question. That, to me, has been probably the biggest component of why Dojo's gotten to where it's at. It has not been me kicking butt in the world every day. It's me talking with someone that wants to help or sees the vision of what we're doing and is like, you should talk to this person, or let me introduce you to this company. Let me do this. And I'm like, wow. And so it's really been like a team effort, obviously, with like a lot of different mentors and people in my own life. One of the things that really kills me is when I'm talking to a lot of college students or like I'm on one-on-one calls with people that will reach out, and I look at their LinkedIn profile and it's like very underdeveloped.
Yeah.
Like they have like an old profile picture. They don't even have 500 connections. It looks just unprofessional.
Yeah.
It kills me because they don't understand how big of a tool LinkedIn can be in creating mentors for yourself.
Totally. Oh, yeah.
There's this one of the things I've learned, like, through running a company and through, like, seeking mentors is senior leaders want to give back. They want to share their experiences, but they don't have as many opportunities, and you probably don't feel as great sharing it with someone who's, like, on the same level as you.
Yep.
But if you're talking to a student, dude, you'll tell them everything.
Yeah.
Tell them all the tips, all the tricks. And so I think so many college students underutilize the ability to reach out and ask for mentorship opportunities.
Yep.
Like,
Worst somebody can say is no. Like,
the worst thing.
It's the worst possible thing they could say is no.
But they'll remember saying no to you, and then all of a sudden you're on their radar. So if you meet them in person, like, they'll remember.
Yeah.
And then maybe it opens up a future opportunity.
Yeah.
But I have a buddy of mine. His name's Dylan Heaton. He's studying performance psychology. And I told him, I was like, dude, you need to build out your LinkedIn profile. And you need to message other performance psychologists on LinkedIn and say, hey, could I get 15 minutes on your calendar? I would love to just learn from you and ask you a few questions about your career path. He sent that message out to, like, 10 performance psychologists, lined up 3 or 4 one-on-one meetings with coaches who are working with professional teams.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yes, this totally works.
And you just ask. You
just
have to ask. Well, and also provide value too. Like, not only I think a lot of people aren't specific enough in their ask, and also, like, are either not specific, super generic, or also don't provide value to the person that they're asking. And I think that's where a lot of people get hung up. And if you do that, like, it'll open so many more doors for you if you're specific in your request, if you're succinct, short, and you're also trying to give them value too.
For sure. Yeah, my dad will tell me this quote, like, when companies will pitch him to raise money because he does angel investing, he'll say, like, if you ask for money, you get advice.
Yeah.
If you ask for advice, you'll get money. And I've seen that. Like, if you come in and you're just like, hey, can you help? Like, this is what I want. Like, I don't know. It's just not the same.
Yeah, it's
but
not the same.
If you're asking, like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? Or how do you see this? Or what did you do? And people start giving you perspective, all of a sudden they, like, want to help you.
People want to here's the thing. People want to talk about themselves. Like, you're serving, like, a really innate, like, human nature trait of ours. It's like, we do, for the most part, we like to help. Like, we're willing to give when asked, so it's like, just ask,
100%.
So.
And my other tip, like, this is something I'm really working on with my own mentors. John, Tyler Richards, they run a boot camp called Startup Ignition. It's all focused on founders and scaling their business. Now, John and Tyler, they live and breathe the educational space and, like, the boot camp world, and so they've been really cool mentors for me.
Yeah.
One of the things that I'm really trying to do with my mentors, and this would be my number one tip of working with mentors, is give them feedback on and report back on the things that you've done. So I think a lot of times mentors, like, will give you advice and then never hear from you again.
Yeah.
I think it can really amplify a relationship and build trust when they give you advice, you do something about it, and you tell them that you did it.
Totally.
Because all of a sudden, if someone's coming to me saying, like, hey, Jaron, you told me to improve my LinkedIn profile. All my 500 connections I've been posting every day for a week. I'm like, dude, that's amazing. You should do this as well. Okay. And so it just amplifies this relationship. Yeah. So that's something I've been doing, trying to send, like, a weekly update, a weekly report, and then, take their advice, make it actionable, and then tell them what I did. And it becomes
an actual relationship at that point.
Yeah.
Like, that's the key. Like, if you really want a mentor, like, it's a two-way street, and you've got to nurture the relationship, just like in anything else. You have to nurture it for you to learn and grow.
Dude, 100%. So, big fan of mentors.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. What's next for Sales Dojo, Jaron? Like, you guys have done the cohorts, you do the trainings, you get these SDRs placed. Like, where do you want to continue to take Sales Dojo, and what's your vision for the future?
Yeah, that's a great question. Again, kind of referencing this boot camp I took Startup Ignition, and John Richards, former BYU entrepreneurship professor, he taught us that like over 90%, or I think it's like 90%, not over, of businesses fail because of premature scaling. And I think that's such an attractive thing to pursue, is just, hit the ground running and make it reach as many people as you can.
Yeah.
But that can kind of backfire if you haven't set up the right processes in place. And so when I went to this boot camp, it was kind of a gut punch of going, hey, we actually have some good things going, but also like we need to improve in certain areas.
Yeah.
And so for us, we've really looked at like locking in our internal processes, making sure that everything is systematized and ready to go. And then for us, our next step is we want to be doing 20 students a month. We want to do 2 cohorts every single month. We work with a lot of Utah companies, but we'll start to expand more into different tech hubs.
Yep.
And we also, because we went back to the drawing board, we focused on how we could improve our curriculum and our connection with partners and companies. And so we've actually implemented a new AI tool where we're able to we do all of our training live, like over Zoom. It's very interactive. But we also now have an AI tool that we use to be able to supplement outside learning.
That's
so
awesome.
we're able to practice sales role plays using this tool while we're not even in class. That are going to help us with call recordings, and then be able to send call recordings to companies so that they can vet reps. We have some things we're really excited about internally, but the next step for us is going to be doing 20 students a month and locking that in. We're excited about that.
Yeah, that's super cool, man. And I'm excited for you. Like, I think it's cool to see you also document your journey. Like, I feel like a lot of founders don't understand. I don't know if it's how to do it properly, but it's like it doesn't come off as authentic. And I feel like you documented your journey very authentically, especially on social media, especially on LinkedIn. Talk to us about maybe your choice to document a little more publicly, and kind of how that maybe is directing kind of the future of Sales Dojo.
Dude, that's a good question. I hope I never come across as someone who just seeks the spotlight or seeks attention or recognition, because I don't want to be that guy, and I don't believe that I am that guy. But I do love sharing on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And I do love sharing what we're doing, because if people don't understand what you're doing, they can't help you. And so I think I try to be a little bit more open, because I want people to know so that they can see that we're working, we're making changes, and if they have advice or help, like, they're willing to help and to reach out. But also, I've been super fortunate with Dojo, where we're very mission driven.
Yeah.
Like, we're not just a software company that's created to make money. And I'd love to start one of those someday. I think that's something definitely on the radar.
We all would, right?
But right now, we are a mission driven company that's out there changing lives. And so much of what Dojo is, again, not me or our team that is like kicking butt. It's the stories of people that were changing their lives or helping them connect with other companies where they're able to start working. And that is my favorite part of sharing on social media. It's not shouting out myself or my own accomplishments, but it's shouting out other people and what they're doing and how we've been able to help them get to where they want to go. So I think it's been a little bit easier to document because we are so mission driven and outside, like, others focused. Yeah. And we have fun with it. And it's been really enjoyable. But I think it's a combination of, having a good mission behind what we're doing, but also not hopefully seeking attention for myself.
Well, yeah. And it's funny because it's like at the end of the day too, like, personal brand, especially nowadays, like, drives so much, I think, more or less eyeballs. It drives a lot of eyeballs for the most part into, because people relate to people, right? Like, people no longer relate to companies anymore. They relate to stories. They relate to people. And I think you guys are doing an amazing job at that.
Well, I appreciate that. I think I could not agree more with you about having a personal brand. It's very important. Like
Yeah.
we teach that to our reps, like when they're interviewing with companies, like your LinkedIn, that's your brand. Like
Yep.
people are going to look at you and we want to make sure that looks good. And so for me, my own personal brand, like I hope people can view it as someone who actually cares about others, who seeks to do good, and also is not afraid to like do things differently or
Yeah.
or challenge the status quo. I think that's how I operate. Like I see a problem and I question like why does it have to be that way? Why do I have to go to school for 4 years? And
Yeah.
like why do I have to do these things? I want to be someone that can challenge the status quo, but I also want to be someone that's very focused on serving those around me, and hopefully that's my brand.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, I think so. I think probably more than you think it is, which is awesome. Tell me a little bit more about the actual cohorts themselves. Like, what do you work on specifically, and kind of what's the path that you put people on to, start from ground zero and end up with an SDR job by the end of the cohort?
Yeah, it's a great question. So our number one focus with the course is to help people get hired. Like that is the number one thing we want to accomplish. It's not to just come in and learn new skills and let it fizzle out. It's like, no,
Yeah.
we're here to help you connect with companies and help you land the best job that you can. So that's our number one focus. The way we go about it is being able to kind of reverse engineer the SDR role. So when we were creating our curriculum, we talked to a lot of different tech companies. We go, hey, what do you want in your SDRs before they get hired? What are you looking for? But then we also went to top performers and go, what are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
what are things that you're doing that are helping you be successful in your role? And all of a sudden, we've been able to kind of combine that along with personal experience and perspective into our curriculum. And with our curriculum, I think one of the reasons we've been successful is because we do things a little bit differently. We do everything live.
Yep.
So it is over Zoom. It's a remote course, but we have live instructors. We keep our courses very interactive, and we actually apply the skills that we're learning. We're having a conversation about this earlier where I think education has changed from quality to quantity in certain elements.
Yeah.
And so like we're trying to take all these classes and just taking as much knowledge as we can, all these podcasts, all these books, which is great. Huge supporter of that.
Yeah.
But in order to learn on a deeper level, you need to have application of what you're learning.
Totally.
And so a lot of people have said, hey, you guys should do a remote course and like an online course people can click through. I was like, that's a great idea. It's really scalable. A lot of other people do that. But it just doesn't develop the same level of skill as having a live instructor. Real feedback actually does long term.
Yeah.
So we are a huge fan of doing it live and now supplementing with AI outside of class so we can continue to have application of what we want to learn. But the course itself, we run a 4-week program. So again, we want to talk about quality.
It's quick. Yeah, it's quick. And it's
quality over quantity.
Yep.
We want to be able to get in, learn, practice, and apply the skills we need, and then get out.
Yeah.
So all of our courses taught in the evenings. So I'd say about 90% of the students we work with are working full-time or are students in college that are going above and beyond by taking an evening course to progress in their career. And so we meet from 5 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time. We do 90-minute classes 4 days a week for 4 weeks. And throughout that whole course, like we talk about character development, like character traits of top performers. We talk about like skill set, doing cold outreach, like the exact skills you're going to be doing as an SDR. And then we talk about processes, so like how to set up your day, how to operate at a high level within your role. And then, of course, we talk about interviews, like how we can prepare ourselves to actually sell ourselves and show what we are capable of to another company. So we enjoy a ton of what we do. We've had some amazing instructors as well who come in and help teach. And we're hiring instructors right now. So we're getting ready to scale that up a little bit, which we're excited about.
That's cool, man. And I think it's awesome that you can take somebody from like just Liz, we'll just cut this out and I'll just start the question over. It's pretty cool that you can take somebody from a construction job.
Hmm.
Put them into your course in 4 weeks, like hyper growth, and get them into a job. Probably, I would assume, within a couple months after they finish the cohort, which is pretty amazing. And you guys have a pretty solid placement rate, don't you?
Yeah, so that's a big focus for us, is being able to improve that placement rate.
Yeah.
To be honest, it's gone down a little bit because we have started working with more remote students, and we don't have as many remote partners.
Yeah.
And so we recognize that.
Well,
and
the
we're trying to
market's
change that.
the market's super interesting right now too. So.
Yeah, kind of volatile. But in Utah, we have an extremely high placement rate.
Yeah.
I think if you're a girl coming through the course, we're at like a 90 to 95% placement rate.
Yeah, that's
if you're a girl
amazing.
coming through the course and you hit the criteria that you need.
Yeah.
And so for us, that's what we want to continue to build. And what's great for all of our current students is they have an alumni network that's already come through the course and works for a lot of these big tech companies. So like we have students inside Pluralsight. We have students inside of Podium, inside of Bill. Like these are big tech companies, juggernauts in Utah. Our students currently work there. And we even have partnerships with a lot of these companies where we're able to skip the line of all these other applicants and get you to the front where you're able to interview.
Yeah. Which is
And
amazing.
that has been so exciting to watch because I hear so many stories of like, I've applied to like 30, 40 companies
Yeah.
and I've gotten like 2 interviews.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, something's broken,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And so it's really important to be able to have like an outside source that can vouch for you, that you can set yourself apart by taking a course.
Yep.
And then you can actually have the skills that you need to perform at a high level in the job.
Yeah. No. Well, 1,000%, but also have the network by the end of the course. That I think the one thing that you guys provide that's really unique is that's the partnership and the network during plus after, where you make that secondary intro, so that they can get that second interview, or they can get started or get ahead of the line of literally thousands of applicants.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. Talk to me about your really kind of like your more or less your next steps. Like you've got the cohort that's coming up. Is it this month or is it next month?
Yeah, we're starting Monday.
You're starting Monday.
Yeah.
So you're coming into this next cohort, and then outside of Sales Dojo, what's next for Jaron? Are Sales Dojo kind of like your bread and butter mission? Like you want to do it forever, or what's next for Jaron too?
That's a great question. Number one, Sales Dojo is like my main focus. Like I don't have any side hustles going on right now. My side hustles would be living a balanced life. So I'm a huge believer in finding balance. Like I love training for different races. I'm a big guitar player. So like I have these other passions or hobbies I'm pursuing. Like I'm a single guy. I need to be social.
Yeah.
And
you love to travel too.
I do travel.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done a couple humanitarian trips. I'm doing another one this year. But those are important to me. And maybe a lot of founders would disagree that I just need to be more all in, or whatever you want to call it, my business, which I feel like I'm pretty all in. But I still prioritize other things outside of work just because work doesn't define me, and I never want it to. I really want to be defined by like the things I'm just doing holistically in my life, like how I'm serving others or things I'm accomplishing, like even physically, like I'm proud of those things. And so I really try to find balance. I don't have a race on the calendar right now, except I think I'm going to sign up for the St. George Marathon.
Good for you.
In April is when the sign-ups open. And the reason behind that is because I want to eventually do a full Ironman.
Yeah.
I've done 2 halves currently, and someday I will do a full. And I will get there. It's going to happen, and I know the marathon's the first step. So if I can do that in 2024, maybe 2025 could be my year. So
I love it.
I love that concept of, having other things that I get excited about. Because if I'm getting my butt kicked at work, I still have other things that are keeping me grounded that can keep me going at a sustainable level to make sure I can operate at my best inside of work.
Yeah, no, it's the put the oxygen mask on first before you help somebody else metaphor, you know?
Yeah.
It's like you got to take care of your body, you got to take care of your life in order to give the best in your business. You have to talk more to Shane because he's running ultras all the time, and you have to talk to I'll maybe introduce you to Lane because Lane works for us, and he's done an full Ironman and does tris, and he's a major biker too. So yeah, man, I'm excited for you, especially this year. So
yeah, those are people I love to talk about because
yeah,
I mean, if you can do that, you're a high performer.
Yeah.
Like I seriously believe it all bleeds together. You can't just be a disciplined athlete without being like disciplined in school. Like if you're gonna cut corners in one area, you're probably gonna cut corners in other areas. Yeah. And I think that's why I like training is because if I can lock in and perform at a high level physically, I feel proud of myself. I feel accomplished, and it's gonna help me lock in, perform at a high level mentally or spiritually, and with my business. So.
I love that, Jaron. I wish we had more time to keep going on this topic, but what is your more or less last piece of advice for someone wanting to break into tech or get out of the rut maybe that they're in right now?
That's a really good question. Just kind of looking back at myself when I feel like I'm in ruts, I think it always comes back to belief in oneself. And belief is hard to sustain at all times. But when I feel discouraged or I have moments of weakness or I'm doubting myself, it always comes back to a core, do I believe in my own abilities? And sometimes it's not me finding it internally, but it's me being around, like I mentioned, a mentor or my mom or my dad or a friend that helps me see it again in myself. And I think that has been one of the biggest reasons we've been successful as a course, as a company, is because when people come into our program, some of them forget they have this ability to learn, or they don't believe in their potential. But by the end of the course, one of the most common themes that we create, and we get responses about this all the time, is people come in and they leave feeling more confident. And it all comes down to helping people recognize and believe in themselves again. And so if you're going through a hard time, I think try to find it within yourself, but if not, go be around other people that can pull it out of you. There's got to be a friend, there's got to be a teacher, there's got to be a mentor that can help bring it back out. Because once you feel it, that's all you need to keep going. Yeah. I feel like that's what dojos run off of, is belief. It's one of my favorite concepts, belief and confidence. Confidence is doing something that you've done multiple times and you know that you can do it. Belief is believing that you can accomplish something that you've never done before at a high level. Yeah. And I feel like I run off belief a lot of times. Yeah. I need to make sure that I have my belief system in place and there are people around me that can support that. I think that's my biggest piece of advice.
And you do it enough and you keep going, and that's what's going to build the confidence.
100%. 100%.
Well, Jaron, thanks so much for being on today, man. I appreciate it, and thank you for your advice and sharing all of your background. And I'm really excited for Sales Dojo. It's been so fun to follow you. It was fun to run your ads for a minute.
That's awesome.
It's exciting to see kind of where things are going for you, and I'm excited for the future for you. Where can people find you? LinkedIn?
Dude, I think that's so cliche, but LinkedIn is such a good spot. Don't just follow me, but you can connect with me. And then, honestly, a lot of people follow our Sales Dojo LinkedIn page because we're always giving shout-outs to our graduates and things that they're accomplishing. And it's really important for them to have a network as well. So connect with me on LinkedIn or follow us with Sales Dojo on LinkedIn or Instagram. Those are probably the best places. If you want to apply for a cohort and see if we can get you in, then you can actually go to salesdojo.com, and then there's an apply now section. If you mention the podcast, then I'll hop on a one-on-one call with whoever reaches out with you, and we'll see if we can be a good fit. So
sounds good. Well, thanks, Jaron. Appreciate it, man.
Well, I appreciate what you're doing. I love this medium that you allow us to connect, and it's so cool what you've built with Scroll. We don't get to talk enough about what you do and how you're an entrepreneur and all these things. So
thanks, man.
Thanks for letting me talk and share, but I'm a big fan of what you guys are building.
I appreciate it, Jaron. Thanks. That's a wrap.
Woo.
Appreciate it. Thanks, man.
Dude.
It's fun. It's always so fun. Like, it's always